Hello and welcome to Diegetic Advancement. My name is Riley, and today we're talking about New Year's resolutions. And not the usual resolutions regarding health, family, work, etc. that everyone tends to say they'll do and only sometimes half achieves. Instead, I want to talk about hobby and gaming resolutions. I wasn't going to do this originally, but I was inspired by Mirke and Evil Jeff, links to their podcast will be in the show notes, both putting out interesting episodes covering their resolutions. And then halfway through drafting this episode, Joe from the Dekahedron podcast, again in the show notes, announced the Anchorite APA, which aligns really well with the goals I was setting for myself. So what are my plans and aspirations for 2025? Anchorite APA. First, a quick comment on the APA. First, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch the episode that Joe recorded with Jason where they discuss what it's all about, or visit the website. Again, links in the show notes. Now, I believe that I was the spark that started this, not that it's important at all, but Daniel from Bandits would have to confirm. But back in February of last year, I recorded a call-in episode, a call-in response to an episode of Daniel's Patreon-only podcast. In this episode, he was reviewing a product which had a very DIY zine feel, I believe, and given it's a long time, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe there was a comparison between this zine and a lot of other, zine, and a lot of the zines that you see now that are very high production value with professional art and printing, etc. That, stuff that you see on Zine Quest. So I'll just put the call in right here.
Hey Daniel, Riley here. I just listened to your latest Freebooters podcast. Sounds like a really cool zine. And yeah, getting handmade zines in the mail is just awesome. I get something like that from a creator here in Australia. That's printed and stapled by a guy, but even that has professional art. And yeah, there's lots of stuff on Zine Quest, which is incredibly well produced. Professional art, writing, editing, plus a really high quality product at the end, which is great, but not really the do-it-yourself thing, which is a bit of a shame, as you said. I don't think it'd be too hard to set up a bit of an initiative to get something happening there. I wonder if people would be interested in doing something like the Gygax 75, but take a month on each step and produce like a double-sided print. Get a few people to handle the printing and shipping for overseas people potentially, or just do it all digitally. I think that'd be really cool. Anyway, thanks for the shows. Great stuff coming out of the Patreon. I'll talk to you later.
Well, Daniel had apparently started thinking about doing something just like that I'd suggested, and had been talking to Joe, but got busy with work and a new job. So Joe has since taken the reins and run with it. And despite my call mentioning it would be fairly simple, I have a habit of generously underestimating effort and time. I imagine it's been a monumental effort by everyone involved. Given that I was at least in some small part responsible, I feel obligated to contribute. And so that will be one of my aspirations. And let's jump into those. A general theme, I might as well get this out of the way, as it pervades everything else. As I've mentioned elsewhere, my partner and I are expecting our second child in late April. That'd bring lots of joy and fun, but also disruptions to my aspirations. So I've crafted them around that, and there'll be a little bit of talk about that as we go through. Okay, the blog and podcast. Basically, I want to try and keep up with regular content, engaging with the community. I'm going to keep building my tools for producing things to reduce friction on this and to keep the consistency. And with that in mind, I plan to continue to move to self-hosting and building tools to help me create and manage the blog and podcast. I've begun to rewrite my current blogging tools to Rust, mainly just to learn the language, as I found my current solution doesn't nearly do everything I need to do, and it's a bit finicky to put things together. The main issue is simply organizing posts in draft and publishing and getting them out. And the second is that I need to actually add some more features like a RNS feed, which the organizing will help with. I'll continue to add quality of life features beyond that when I have time and energy. 2, I also need tools to help me manage the podcast and specifically call-ins. There are a few avenues that I want to invest time in here. I think the most ambitious is creating a podcatcher with some sort of call-in or note-taking functionality. I find myself having meaningful things to call in about whilst I'm listening, but I'm often driving or doing other things, which means the opportunity to actually record a call in it gets delayed, and by that time I've forgotten and feel like I need to re-listen. More reasonably, similar to organizing my blog, some tools for organizing call-ins, both outgoing and incoming, would be nice. 3, how about content? I'd love to say I'd keep up with regular content, but at least for the podcast, that might be difficult. I'll try my best to use the free time I have efficiently, but I expect there will be some more blog-only content coming up. I want to continue my regular series of content, though, with as much frequency as I can manage and find joy in. So expect updates from DA, the D&D deep dive, and anything else that takes my fancy like this. And 4, lastly, I started this both as a creative outlet, but also for the community. So trying to keep up the other shows and calling in. Sorry, it almost sounds like I'm doing this as a community service, but I'm doing this so that I could be a part of the community. Okay, on to creating useful content. Yeah, one of the goals with me, soft relaunching the podcast as season 2 and starting the blog, was to actually produce content that was useful to people, that could be used in their games. So with that in mind, 1, produce content like adventures, setting information, or house rules advice. I've already submitted an adventure to Commodore's Adventure Site contest, and whilst I technically did that in December, it doesn't get reviewed until this year, which is when I'll release it after some tidy up potentially. So anything I do will be sort of DIY and free. My current plans are to create a few more adventure sites, mainly for the practice, aiming to submit again next year, and create a simple set of wargaming rules, which is currently in progress. Number 2, created setting. I'll have plenty of downtime and less gaming this year, and one of the things I've struggled with running games at the moment is not feeling like I know the setting enough to respond to things on the fly. So I'm going to try and make my own, very generic, most likely, sword and sorcery setting, which is where I'll set future games. And 3, contribute to the APA. I'm really excited about this. I was pumped when I called in to Daniel a year ago, basically. So I'm going to submit to that. I've already got an idea. The current plan is to submit some version of my 6 turns down under idea. I'll talk to Joe once I submit something and see how I want to share that more broadly if I do it all. And lastly, gaming. I'm going to be pressed for time. So 1, I'm already into really great play-by-post games as a player, and play-by-post was really great for me when my first kid was born, so I'm looking forward to this continuing. I plan to start running my own game to replace the GMing that I'm currently doing as well. No plans for what that'll look like just yet. It'll certainly be D&D though. I do need to get a move on and start that up soon though. 2, wargaming. I think I can actually get a good amount of wargaming done this year. RPGs are hard because you tend to need regular consistent sessions, but wargames are sort of easier to fit in whenever I can get some free time or when I can get babysitting. I have another bolt action event in March, and then I'll try and get as much gaming in as is reasonable. I think it's fairly important to me. I think it'll be a rare opportunity to get face-to-face time with friends as well. And of course, all the other hobby stuff, modeling, painting, terrain making. I should have some time for that in the wee hours of the morning between wake-ups. In terms of games, I hope to create a few gaming sets where I have everything needed to play a game. Opponent doesn't need to bring models or anything. The current plans are for Frostgrave, or any generic fantasy skirmish game, Gaslands, because hacking together Hot Wheels sounds fun, and Blood Bowl. Mainly, I got this idea for a really cool stadium diorama, which would be fun. And lastly, 3, solo gaming. Probably not. With all the content creation that I aim to do, I think that's going to scratch the lonely fun itch, creating adventures, writing this setting. So that'll probably not happen, but we'll see. All right, with that wraps up the episode. Thanks to Mirke and Evil Jeff for putting out similar episodes, give me the sort of inspiration to do this. Thanks for Joe for putting all the work together for the APA. You can expect a submission before the cutoff, hopefully, almost certainly. But and thank you all for listening. If you got any thoughts, feedback, ways to contact me are in the show notes. Bye for now.